A young girl sings in the green light, songs of leaves on the river, evening rain. She strains to keep time with the boy beside her who fights the feedback from his bass. Her voice, so clear and fine, balances the strength of her song high out over the audience, men, women, children, drawn to the hall by the songs piped out over loudspeakers hung high in the trees. Her teacher stands nervously to the side in a brown rumpled suit and tie. The boy before him slips another filter into the spotlight, changing the halo circling the singer from red to green, exposing a cracked plaster wall, a display of children's paintings, scenes of boats drifting on blue rivers, mountain villages suspended under October moons. The sadness of autumn gathers here. I remember your words. Hope is an unharvested field. The world and its leaders must come to know and recognize the role of art, culture, music, poetry in making peace. As one who was once a soldier, I know that peace will never come at the end of a gun, and that violence only begets more violence in an endless cycle that consumes itself and us all. Dioxin song. Somewhere in the sky, their healthy bodies float above us. Somewhere they swim in an air better than any we will ever know. The chemical scent gone, the burning. Children sent back this time to live in their true bodies, their pure, unsullied bodies. Nothing in their cells but the clear waters they see falling at the edge of the skies. How many of them, how many each day slipping out from flesh, children born into those twisted forms, children with fins where arms ought to be, toes and legs sprouting like flowers from their chests. In a film, I watched two boys with giant heads, heavy ovoid eyes, snouts for noses, sit gently before a thatched house in a village. 18 and 20 years old, still posed like children, they edged in close beside their father, who spoke with absolute calm about the ways he cared for them. Moments later, a young woman with clear, dark eyes leaned forward, tried to smile, but couldn't. All through the interview, she struggled patiently to get her two daughters, born without eyes, to sit up straight on the mat beside her. What many forms love takes. A friend told me once the story of the birth of his first child, how he climbed the wall of the hospital so he could look in on his wife. He was so filled with joy, he said, to see it healthy. He was halfway home before he realized he hadn't checked to see if it was a boy or a girl. He asked if I had ever seen the fetuses kept in the jars in the hospitals in the South, those babies with the wizened faces staring out through the yellow glaze of formaldehyde. The image of their gorgon heads, their humped and fish-like torsos woke him up at night, he said. Somewhere they too float in the sky above us. Somewhere what doesn't die lives on in silent rage. In Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Serbia, Bosnia, Ireland, I have seen landscapes devastated, lives destroyed. I met victims of torture, families who've endured incredible suffering. And in my own life, I have witnessed the death of my friends on the battlefield and seen others survive to come home only to take their own lives, and later seen they and their families suffer from terrible illnesses from exposure to toxins that have been let loose out into the world. On Wan Kiem. Night and the woman moved through the streets in silk-cut dresses, sleeveless arms beckon, bared legs slash through crowds at stoplights, sandals lift a body weightless forever in the air. Around the lake, lights of oncoming cars move dragon-eyed in dusk. This city's soft geomancy of love, as if life were only a matter of bodies and spaces, there for the light to sing. But I have seen the power of poetry and humanity at work. I have seen veterans from different sides of wars sit down together to write poetry. I have seen young woman poets from all sides of the recent war in the former Yugoslavia, from Bosnia, Serbia, Croatia, traveling together, reading their poems and meeting other young women in each of those places once and in many still ways so divided. I have seen young Palestinian children in camps make films about their lives, about lemonade stands, about living among unexploded bombs. I have seen the power of art and poetry to join people together, to advance the cause of peace, and to do that hard soul work of healing. That poem is about memory and forgetfulness, and this next poem it's called First Casualty.
El poema anterior es sobre la memoria y el olvido, y este poema que sigue a continuación se llama La Primera Baja.
It's about the first dead body I saw as a soldier in the war. And there's a saying that after the first death, all the rest are numbers. And anyone who's been in a war knows that's not true, that those casualties walk through our sleep, they walk through the streets, they walk through the squares at night, begging for peace.
Dice que este poema se trata sobre el primer cuerpo muerto que vio en la guerra, y dicen que después del primero que uno ve, los demás son solamente números, y a él le parece que esto no es verdad, que esos muertos lo persiguen a uno en los sueños, en las calles, en las plazas, y están entre nosotros buscando la paz.
This is for all those casualties. First casualty. They carried him slowly down the hill. One hand hung, gray and freckled. No one spoke but stared straight up. His body heavy, rolled back and forth on the litter. At LZ, Sharon cook spooned the last hot food. One by one, the squad walked back uphill. Don't mean nothing, someone said. But all that winter and into spring, I swear he followed us, his soul a surplus trailing the jungle floor.
Kevin quiere decir que este poema es para todas esas bajas de la guerra.